world, my name is Nicholas Montez, and you're watching my YouTube channel, Nicholas Montez. Welcome back to another YouTube channel today, everybody. I'm so excited to have y'all back here together again. And in today's video, we're going to do something very, very exciting because today is my final day of the summer movie season. And tomorrow starts the fall movie season for both non-new release films and new release movies. And that means today I'm going to stop and rank all 20 new release films of summer of 2021, and then later I'll have my ranking of all 46 non-new release films that I saw in summer of 2021. But we're doing this ranking first, so let's get started talking about the new releases that I saw in summer of 2021. Okay, so for me, False Positive just was so boring. I remember I gave this like a C+ in that live stream I did when I was sick. I don't know what this movie was. This was just one of the worst movies I saw this year. There's probably some thrills I liked or something, some music I liked, but those are just least things that I didn't like. So overall, this is probably the most boring movie and probably the most baddest movie of the entire year. So going into this movie, I was actually kind of excited because Liam Neeson is known to be one of the best action thriller guys that stars in these types of action films, as he starred in Taken, and then he did other movies like The Commuter. He did all these awesome movies. I mean, I haven't seen any of them. I watched half of Taken, but I haven't seen the full thing, and I want to see it though. And then I went to go see this film on Netflix, and this film was just very disappointing. There's not really any action in the movie, and plus, when action happens, it's just not that good. There's probably this one scene where Liam Neeson punches a guy that is kind of cool, but even then, the action's still not great. The cast is pretty good, the landscapes of everything, and the music is good. But really, just all the characters, the story, really everything else just feels terrible. So it was probably my choice for the worst film of this summer, but it's definitely not at the bottom, but it's still one of my least favorite films of this year. So this is actually another one of those action movies that I was kind of looking forward to because Jean-Claude Van Damme is another one of those famous movie actors. And once again, I have not seen any of his movies, so this is technically the first film I watched of him. And unfortunately, this was probably one of the most disappointing films of all time because I was expecting this movie to be a very cool action film with great characters and stuff like that. But this film just does not do great. Probably the thing I did like about the movie is that some of the action was pretty cool with Jean-Claude Van Damme. Though some of them was kind of cartoonish, but some of them were pretty fun. But overall, the movie, when I was watching it, characters, they kind of delayed their speech in a way, or maybe it was just Netflix's fault, and I had to keep rewinding the scene to see if there was something wrong with my phone or something, and it wasn't. That was just the way the movie played out, and it was just so weird. The story wasn't that great, the cast wasn't really that great, so overall, just a very disappointing action movie. This is a movie that I actually kind of enjoy. I enjoy the story of people like trying to go to sleep, and people like thinking that something's there when they're attacking, but not people are there. And this whole trying to go to sleep thing is affecting everybody, and the acting in it is kind of good. But the whole premise of it just feels so weird, and it's kind of confusing in a sort of way of how this little girl can sleep and everyone else can't, and it just doesn't really make sense. But there are still some enjoyable things that I did like about the premise, but some of it didn't really work for me. Now, Good on Paper, I just thought it was a simple story about a girl being a stand-up comedy person. It's not trying to be the best story ever made. It's just telling a simple story about this girl that does stand-up comedy. She has friends. She does comedy. And yeah, there's not really any more I gotta say about it. I feel like most of the movie was just people screaming and cursing. But overall, it was just a fine movie. I don't really have much more to say about it. Now, this movie was so much fun. I was kind of disappointed with the second Space Jam just because the whole story just felt so unnecessary of Michael Jordan and the Looney Tunes characters teaming up to play basketball. And then in this movie, I kind of liked it. I liked the son and relationship between LeBron James and his son. I like the aesthetics of all the games stuff. I like going to all these classic Warner Brothers films like The Matrix, and seeing all these other characters again. And Zendaya as Lola Bunny, pretty good. But the problem here, the acting was not that great because LeBron James is not great. There are some very funny moments. The basketball sequences are enjoyable. But just in general, the whole story never really made sense to me. And then Don Cheadle as this algorithm guy, I enjoyed. But just in general, it's not one of the best films ever. But I still enjoyed it. Now, this is a movie that I had so much fun with. First off, the action sequences were just top-notch. Whether it was the scene in Tokyo with Letty, Mia, and the girl that Han adopted, the scenes with Dom fighting people, the scene with Tej and Roman Pierce in the truck, I thought that was really nice, well done. With the scenes whenever Dom and Jacob fought each other, the action sequences are just amazing, and likewise, the car sequences are just amazing when the cars are getting destroyed or planes getting destroyed. And it even goes bizarre when they go out into space. It's just bizarre. The new characters in here I thought were amazing. I thought the new girl that Han adopted was pretty cool. I thought that Jacob is not the best character, but he was fine. I liked how he got in the action, so that was fun. And the way it kind of continued these characters, I thought it was great. The way they did it, it was funny. All these little journeys that all these characters went on, it was really cool. But the problem here, I just feel like they did too much, and I feel like it was kind of overwhelming a little bit at some point times. And also, Jacob's motivation to kill Dom just never really meant anything to me. I mean, I understand that he was kind of like the more bigger brother guy, and then he lost, but his whole premise was just not that great, and the death of his father was just unnecessary to talk about. So overall, I thought it was a very fun movie, but not the best movie of the summer. Now, this was a movie that I actually kind of liked. I mean, it's not the best Sony animation film, but it is kind of up there. I thought that the way it kind of copies Aladdin, and the way it kind of does that, it makes it something into its own story, but copies some stuff from Aladdin that I kind of enjoyed. There's a lot of similarities to Aladdin, whether it's the lamp with the dragon, the person trying to get the jar so that way they can have absolute power. Like, there's all these similarities, but it's done in different ways with different relationships, a different story, and different characters in a different world setting. So I think that the way it copies Aladdin but makes it its own story, it does it pretty well. And then, of course, some of the action was also pretty cool. Now, I know what you're thinking. How can you put the Suicide Squad this low on a summer movie ranking list of 2021? I know what you're thinking. I do enjoy this movie. I think it's very fun. It's very enjoyable. The action sequences are phenomenal. the characters, I gotta say, when I was first watching the movie, I was like, these characters are fun to spend time with, but I'm not really sure if I enjoyed any of the arcs. But now I look back on them, and some of the characters actually have pretty cool arcs. Bloodsport was an amazing character, so was Ratcatcher 2, Polka Dot Man, King Shark I like how he had this Groot and Hulk vibe to him. Harley Quinn was of course amazing. Rick Flag actually had a pretty cool arc as he died trying to get this thing, and just all the characters are pretty fun to explore. Peacemaker was also really good as he's literally basically about bringing peace around the world, and he'll do peace if he has to kill people to do it. But the problem here is that when you enter the movie, it literally starts off with no answers, with all these answers. Like, it starts off with Michael Rooker's character bouncing a ball, throwing it around, and then kills a bird, and then he's aligned with Amanda Waller, and he basically becomes part of this new Suicide Squad, and we get introduced to all these new members. We get a little fun scene on the truck, on the plane, and then they go to the speech land, and the first character to die is Weasel, and I'm like, this is just such a waste of potential for this character. I mean, I don't know anything about him, but it was just such a waste of this character, and obviously it was kind of obvious that he was gonna die, even though he did come back in the end credits. It was just a waste of his character. And then you get all these other characters where one betrays them, and then they tried to attempt to kill all these other guys, and they fail. And it's like, this is just such a waste of potential for all these characters that could have been awesome. And it's like, it's a good thing that some of my favorite Suicide Squad members from the last Suicide Squad movie, I'm glad they were in here, so that way they couldn't die, like Deadshot, or Katana, and Diablo. I'm glad they didn't die and they weren't in this movie, but I hope they appear in another Suicide Squad film. And then also the Project Starfish plotline I never really enjoyed. The part I enjoyed about that storyline was that Peacemaker wanted to keep it away from the press because it had some stuff that the United States were doing back then, and they were part of it, and they wanted to do something bad with it. And Rick Flag just wanted to show it because the world needs to know what the U.S. was doing. And then also, like, when you get to the third act, it's awesome, but like Bloodsport literally kills civilians, like, that are mind controlled by these starfishes on their face. And it's like, why would you kill civilians? You're not supposed to be killing them, you're supposed to be protecting them, not killing them. And so it was just kind of odd the way that was. Because if they were planning on protecting people, and now he's killing people. I mean, you could have at least pushed them away or something, not kill them. But, I don't know. So that's really all I gotta say. So that's my other review for the Suicide Squad. Okay, so for me, I enjoyed this movie. It wasn't the best. It was just right there, fine. I enjoyed it. That was really it. With all these black people movies, I enjoyed it. I liked how it focused on music and stuff. The documentary stuff was cool. And overall, it was just a good movie. So for me, I thought that this was a solid conclusion to the Fear Street trilogy. I thought that the conclusion to it was great, but and I thought that all the characters had satisfying conclusions to their stories. But the problem here is I just feel like that the movie they focused in on all of these characters. Hang on. The way it kind of does this 1666 plot line of these characters going into this timeline, and it's like they have weird accents, and I hated the accents in this movie for these characters, and they try to find something out, and then you realize it, oh, but that's really the only problem. Like, I don't like how they go back, but then you realize, oh, so it's fine. But even then, it was disappointing, but at the same time, I still kind of liked it. Now, Fear Street 2, I actually enjoyed. I thought that it worked better as a summer movie that takes place in the 70s, rather than a movie that takes place rather than a sequel to Fear Street Part 1. That's just kind of my opinion. I thought the soundtrack was great, I thought the characters were great, the horror effects were great, and it kind of got me excited it didn't really get me excited for Fear Street 3, because it just focused on a weird story. I didn't really feel like it focused in on the story that much of this trilogy. But overall, I thought it was a good movie, and but not the best in the trilogy. So, speaking of Luca, I actually rewatched it last night, and I actually kind of liked it. I felt the same way about it, and it's not that bad of a movie. I enjoyed it. It was fun. It was enjoyable. But the movie itself was just good. It's not trying to be the best Pixar film. It's just trying to be another fun Pixar movie that has likable characters, fantastic animation, moments in the water just reminding me of Finding Nemo and all the Finding movies, the Nemo and Dory films. They reminded me of that. The voice cast with Jacob Tremblay, the guy that plays the kid from It and Shazam, I thought was great. And so overall, it was just a simple story. And of course, adding Maya Rudolph as Luca's mom, pretty good. Because technically, I feel like she's just a famous actor that's in a lot of movies these days. So overall, I just thought it was a simple Pixar film. So, as this is the first movie in the MCU that came out since Spider-Man Far From Home, I enjoyed it. I thought that introducing these new characters with Yelena, Melina, and Red Guardian, I thought all of them were great, especially Yelena and Red Guardian. I thought they were the two standouts of the film, of these new characters. And really just kind of exploring Black Widow's story, Natasha's story, of what she was going through as a kid, how she was taken by her adopted parents, and she was trained by this guy that turned her into a killing assassin. It's just heartbreaking to see her go through that. And Yelena and her have a great arc and a great chemistry together. The action is, of course, fantastic. The third act may be a little bit CGI heavy, but that doesn't really bother me. I, of course, like CGI battles. And then, of course, when you get to the end credits scene where Yelena is assigned to kill Hawkeye, because unfortunately Hawkeye killed Black Widow, Natasha. So I'm very excited how Yelena is gonna appear in the Black Widow in the Hawkeye series. But overall, I enjoyed it. And also, I want to see a movie or a TV show with Red Guardian and the Witcher Guard. Now, I enjoyed Vivo. I thought it was a fun movie that was just kind of surprising, honestly. It, as Lin-Manuel Miranda stars in it, the music is just amazing, the animation is great, the emotional moments, they work at the right times, all of the characters are really well explored, they're all likable, and it really just, the story is very simple, and it's kind of just one of those movies of this list that I kind of want to go back and rewatch again. Now, Fear Street Part 1 was just the film that I liked. This is the best of the Fear Street movies for me because it introduced all these characters in a very cool way. They're all likable, and you could see that some of them have crushes on each other, and some of them don't like them, but then in the end, they do like each other. And then, of course, the horror story. I thought that this was the one that introduced the horror stories in a very cool way. And as you can see, people are like have different perceptions on this, and it's just really cool to see that. And the way all these two other characters died, it was kind of satisfying conclusions to their characters, though it was sad to have them go. It was also just exciting to see, because that ending was just kind of long, but it got you excited for what's coming next in the future for those two other movies. So I really liked this film. So this is just a movie that when I first was planning my schedule for the week I saw this was a movie that was exactly what I wanted. Like, I saw the poster for this, and I saw someone holding a gun, and I was like, yes, this is gonna be one of those movies that it's gonna be an action movie, and it was an action movie, and I just loved it. The characters themselves just were great. The whole cast was great, with Karen Gillan, Angela Bassett, Michelle Yeoh. I mean, the whole cast, as it stars all these girls, were just great. And it reminded me a lot like Birds of Prey. It really just felt... I mean, Birds of Prey was a lot better, but this movie is still very good, very good. The action was, of course, very clever, especially that sequence with Karen Gillan in the chair. That, of course, was fantastic. It also just has some great chemistry with the kid in here from My Spy. I thought that was great. And then also the relationship between Karen Gillan and her mother in this film. I thought it was great. And then, of course, the soundtrack was, of course, great. So I loved this movie, and I think it's one of the best action movies of the summer for me. Now, this was a movie that I was so surprised with, because when I was going into this movie, I just did not know what to think about it, because everybody has been saying negative things, and some people don't like the original Boss Baby, and people were just trashing on this movie as well. And I just didn't really like the trailers all that much, though I was just thinking it was going to be just another simple DreamWorks film. And I gotta say, it's not that at all. It's not. It was honestly just such a very good film, because as these two characters have grown up, you learn that they have drifted apart, and what's his name? Ted has gone to work. He missed his wedding. He missed his graduation ceremony. He missed all of this, and it creates this great arc for him. And then, of course, Tim's also going through his daughter troubles, as his daughter is like drifting apart from him, and it's very sad for this character. And then likewise, it also just has some very funny moments with the baby stuff, or saying, hey, can you read me? Say something, daddy. And just like, the Thursday? And then, of course, like, the new characters with Tina is, of course, great, though she's not in the movie all that much, and she's not the biggest part of the story, though she tries to help. Turning these characters back into babies again was pretty fun and a pretty clever idea, and I thought they used that idea in a cool way, especially with Tim, as he kind of becomes friends with his daughter. Adding Jeff Goldblum into this film was also pretty good, though his perception never really worked for me. So overall, it was just another fun film, while not necessarily being the next first Boss Baby, but I still really loved this film. Now, this was a movie that I thought came out perfectly on Father's Day weekend, because it's all about a father trying to raise a kid on his own while having the help of his friends come out, where it has the right amount of comedy, and it has the right amount of seriousness and cuteness. Kevin Hart, while he is a very comedic actor, as this is one of his more serious films, it worked so nicely as he has to do this on his own. The character relationships just worked so well. The movie was just overall good, and everything happened at the right time. And I loved Fatherhood. I thought it was one of the best films this year. In the Heights was definitely the best film of this year. Well, not definitely. Raya is now my favorite of this one, but In the Heights was fantastic. I loved this film. I really liked how it explored a different setting of New York that I never really got to explore before. I thought that was great. And then, of course, the cast is great. All the characters are likable. They have all these different things with them. The music and scores, the music and songs in the film are just amazing. And exploring all these different places of the world, exploring all these different characters and their day-to-day lives is just cool. And overall, it was sad, it was funny, it was exciting, and overall, it was just a very fun, exciting movie that I loved. So that's why it's my favorite movie of the summer of 2021, of new releases. And that's my ranking of all of them. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. My Instagram is Marvel6, and my TikTok number is MarvelFan. If you guys don't understand those names, head to my back section so you can follow me on all social medias. I'm also on Letterboxd. It's the name as on Instagram, Marvel_6_, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.